Jacob, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. I realize that all our conversations start that way. I'm not entirely
And
sure
it's
why.
it's always after we talked for like 25 minutes about some dumb shit.
Yeah, and I know how you're doing. So, I mean,
I like
movie
just told
magic.
you I just told you about like my woe is me story about my day and
It was quite a tragedy. Today we're talking about The Craft, 1996. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's
yeah,
1996 because we
it
just said
is.
it came out the same year as Scream.
Yeah, it did.
Um, and I've always really loved this movie. I thought that everyone in the world had seen this movie. I think it's one of the most popular, if not one of the most well-regarded teen movies from the 90s. And
Yeah.
I'm really excited to get talking about it because it's got like unforgettable characters, some pretty cool themes, some some a little like postmodern edging, like we're getting closer and closer to it, about to explode. Um wow, what a stupid metaphor. That's how I'm gonna front load this video. Okay. The Craft. What did you think of The Craft, Jacob? What the fuck?
It was good. I don't know if I liked it as much as you, but I did like it.
Maybe this is something you're supposed to see when you're supposed to see it.
Yeah,
Like,
I was about to say I didn't have that added benefit.
I grew
Um
up with the VHS tape and like first watched it when I was 11 or 12. I think you're supposed to watch it in middle school. Like,
I
uh,
was gonna say, this mostly existed to me previously in the form of like an anonymous VHS tape or DVD I had seen many a time growing up, but never, the same way like when you're perusing Blockbuster, I'm like the last person to ever do that, but
I
as a
was
kid.
afraid. I was afraid to revisit it because I didn't want to see cracks in it, and there are definite cracks
Yeah.
in the Craft. But what has only gotten better with time is something I've always said about The Craft. It has one of my like top five favorite movie villains of all time. Really into Nancy, Fairuza Balk,
Oh, Nancy.
Nancy
Yeah.
Downs. Her performance like has only gotten better to me. Her characterization, she is fucking bonkers in this movie. She's entirely out of her mind, and she is so incredible and engaging to watch. And I mean, I like Nancy's story too. I always, when I grew up, I would always watch like The Craft and The Lost Boys at the same time. The Craft feels
Mm.
like a Lost Boys for girls. It's really what it feels like,
Yeah.
complete with the same amount of queer undertones, and the same amount of like sexual awakening metaphors as the
Hmm.
Lost Boys did. The Craft though, Nancy Downs, I think Nancy outdoes Kiefer Sutherland's David. I'm really into Nancy. She's so much fun to watch, and I think her character is handled really well because like she only really goes absolutely crazy during the last 30 minutes of it, and that's the most entertaining shit in the world. But that hour getting there, some really good characterization, some actual subtle nuances on the part of Fairuza Balk. I want to talk about Nancy first. I think we're gonna go and just talk
No, go
about
for it. Go for it. Go
these
for it.
characters. Nancy is the coolest, and I know that like Fairuza Balk as well is a practicing pagan or Wiccan or
I
however
think
you'd
a
like to refer to it.
few of the actors are. I know Rachel True is into tarot,
Rachel
I
True is
think, and
like
stuff like that.
Rachel True is into it, but like she wouldn't call herself a practicing pagan. Fairuza Balk was one already by the time this film was
Yeah,
being
yes.
made. Fairuza Balk, I think the first time she was ever in anything was like Return to Oz, and she's always done these weird kind of roles. This is obviously clearly the best role she ever had. I think in like one character, you can really encapsulate a whole characteristic of like rebellious, rejected '90s teen girls. The rage. Fire is really her emblem, right? I mean, each girl is an element, pretty deliberately, with Nancy being fire, being rage, and Sarah, the main character, being Earth, the most grounded character. Rachel True is water. She's a diver in the film, even. And Neve Campbell is the wind, is air. She's like the seer. She can tell that that Sarah is the fourth member or whatever. And that's
I'm gonna be real. I didn't catch that, but so you're kind of blowing my mind. But
Well, they even bring their element to that invocation seance on the beach.
That I remember. I was watching that scene again earlier.
Like Rachel True brings a goldfish in a
Yeah,
bag of water, and what's her name? Bonnie brings a
that's right.
butterfly in a jar.
Yeah, and the snake. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I mean, so that's pretty cool. And Fairuza Balk is like fire incarnate. Even as a kid, there are two things in this movie that actually creeped me out on the level of a horror movie, because like this was probably my introduction to like certain problematic themes as well. Like when Skeet Ulrich believes that he is hooking up with Sarah, but it's really just like Nancy doing a glimmer, doing like a mirage,
Hmm.
and like he comes to like I remember as a kid feeling like, oh, that's not right, that's wrong. You shouldn't lie like
Yeah.
that to get people that you want that you like. That's not the way people who like people do it. And but in that scene where she goes crazy and she's like jealous, you don't even exist to me. You are shit. And like they had that great shot of her like her heels like
Moving,
underneath her.
and she
Yeah, just
moves
tippy
in and
toes.
then back.
And
I
then
think
he's
it's like a
like,
vertigo shot.
I'm sorry. And then she goes, he's sorry, he's sorry, he's sorry, he's sorry, he's sorry, and then fucking kills him. I'm like,
Yeah.
Nancy, you are a legend. And she's walking around that party already, like totally uber gossed out, like trying to gross out all the normies. It's fucking awesome. I love Nancy. What are your thoughts on Nancy? I've been babbling incoherently.
No, no, it's okay. I do think she's the most interesting performer in the movie. She's by far like the most magnetic performer in the movie, but like by far, by far. It's almost kind of disorienting at times because she has like a completely different acting style from anyone else in
Yes.
in the cast. Like, granted, I think they're all doing great. I love Nev Campbell,
Oh no,
obviously, always.
it's
I
a
think
wonderful.
Rachel
I,
True
I
is
say
wonderful.
and I think they're all great, and I think it should speak to the film's like, or to the film strengths and to like Fairuza Balk's like abilities that I'm singling her out like above the others. She had a much more difficult or much more
Yeah,
demanding thing to
absolutely.
do, and
Absolutely.
would have failed if she didn't pull it off. I could see this just being hysterical. I could see this just being non-threatening, but I'm actually threatened and thrilled by Nancy.
Hmm.
Like she's fucking psychopathic.
I
Um,
I actually have some issues with the performance, or at least like the characters more towards the end. But except for her, like she
yeah,
carries it through to like the very end. I think she's like by far the most consistent performer.
she
I kind
keeps
of
it
don't
together.
like Robin Tunney, but she's okay. But I think like Feruza, Nev, and Rachel are like by
Well,
far.
Robin Tunney is our James Marsden of the film.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, how like it's a disturbing behavior situation where how are you gonna be super memorable when you're around some of the most unforgettable characters in your genre for the time? How are you gonna do it?
yeah. She's kind of like our cipher
She
for
really
these
is,
like
and Fairuza Balk
incredibly.
is like our Nick Stahl. I like her on that level. Okay, like she's
Yeah,
just as good as Nick Stahl was in Disturbing Behavior, if not slightly better.
yeah.
Uh, Fairuza Balk is ridiculously good in this film. And I know some of you who pay close attention to my analysis, especially of like these postmodern movies, might be asking yourself, but Zach, but boyfriend, I thought you said that if religion was in a postmodern movie, then that invalidates the movie or something. Um,
I was thinking
did,
that.
I, I figured you were thinking that. um, So I'm reminded of a beautiful throwaway line that Fairuza Balk gets to have. Which, by the way, no, this film is deliberately made to be a sincere um, interpretation of of paganism. Like it wasn't made by a group of people who hated this. It's not made by postmodernists.
Yeah, yeah.
In my defense of this movie, how much I love it and how I still think it is a valid postmodern film, when Nancy really turns to me is like in the car where she's changing all the lights and like nearly getting everybody killed. And she has this awesome line. Of course, you're supposed to agree with Robin Tunney, the main character, is like, we're playing
Yeah.
with major forces here. Everything's gonna come back times three. You're supposed to agree with her. But then brats like me will go, Nancy has a point. When she's like, are we having a theology discussion here? It's fun. It's scary. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's the way for like part of the film is saying like, no, we're not really having a theology discussion. A lot of it can be interpreted as as a metaphor for sexual awakening, because obviously the more powerful these witches get, the shorter their skirts get. Like it is all very strongly like a spring awakening, a sexual awakening kind of metaphor thing. But there's also the idea that it's not pro, like my problem with like a New Nightmare or some of the other postmodern movies with hell bent on like Judeo-Christian like mainline mainstream traditions, traditional religions. This one is a far more traditionally feminist religion as well. I mean, and feminism is inherently postmodern in its in the 90s context.
Yeah.
Um, so I still think it's completely valid as a postmodern film, even though it does sincerely engage with Wiccan ideology. Absolutely, it's not trying to disprove, dispel. I think it's actually trying to persuade people to like
Yeah.
maybe try it out. But it's a good movie like this. There's not a whole lot of films out there for women or young girls that are like, there's a whole alternative lifestyle that is valid, that is like rewarding, that is dangerous, that you can involve yourselves in, just like the guys have theirs. Like I like that our main the male character with the most life, well, really doesn't have a life. He's like brainwashed for most of the movie that he's not a complete dick in. Like, he's just a vacant fucking like sex object, really.
Mhm.
Until
Which
he
is
gets,
funny because that presupposes that Kid Ulrich is attractive, but
you know, he is. He not here. He's a lot more
not
attractive as
here
Billy.
though.
Not here
Yeah.
as Billy Loomis. He is, but not here.
Yeah, Billy
Um,
Loomis, I can see the attraction. Here he looks like
well,
a
as Billy
fucking
Loomis, he's
freak.
like knock off Johnny Depp, like deliberately. Like you can
Yeah.
definitely see it. Here, though, it works well to the performance, since it is a crush that turns to be violently obsessive to the point where he attempts to sexually assault her.
Yeah.
Um, which is a wild, a wild part of the film, which it was handled like delicately anyway. I feel like I've been talking so much.
No, that's
Say
okay.
things to me.
You're really excited about it. No, it's okay. No,
I
no,
am
I
a real
agree.
big fan.
I agree. I was also really into the gay element of it. I wish there was a little bit more of it. Like I think wish it leaned into it more, although that
Mhm.
I think that's kind of necessary given the direction the plot takes. Because during the second half, you sort of come to the realization that these girls don't actually like each other that much.
Right?
Um,
Yeah.
which was odd for me because my favorite part of the first half was I was thinking, oh, this is so nice. They're just hanging out and having fun together. And then I get to the second half, I'm like, oh, they hate each other. They never liked each other. Like it's actually kind of funny. I kind of respect that. That they have like a very opportunistic relationship to each other. But nonetheless, no, I do agree. It is good as like a film not just for women but for girls, like for kids and teenagers.
Yeah.
I thought a lot of while watching it of a movie I definitely like more, which is Ginger Snaps. I saw that
Ginger
earlier
Snaps
this
is
year.
cool. I like this more simply because I think Nancy Downs is a fascinatingly vicious villain.
No,
Ginger
I
Snaps is
agree.
really cool. Ginger,
Yeah,
we will do Ginger Snaps one day.
yeah, Ginger Snaps I connect with. I think it has a bit more bite to it, whereas this like kind of
Yeah,
oscillates
but
between
it was
like
also made like 10 years later, and a lot can
y-
change.
yeah, yeah. Like Ginger Snaps, like this Ginger Snaps commits to something stuff that like this movie hints at, like the whole suicide attempt, and those become like the main text of Ginger Snaps, whereas this it's like an element drawn on. This kind of
Yeah,
oscillates between that and being a little more clean, although it's weird because it's like it's a little clean and I think okay, this could air on TV, and then there's some of the most fucked up shit I've seen this year. So it's like a weird thing with this movie. I mean, The
yeah.
Craft, like it kind of oscillates a bit, so I can see why it has that reputation,
It's
like for
incredibly
being,
accessible. I mean, it's a complete
yeah,
studio film. Ginger Snaps feels a bit more low key.
it does, yeah.
And I guess a bit more unique in its vision, but I do like that The Craft exists as this studio film, marketed to troubled teenage girls to help them with like some kind of rebellious identity as opposed to one that's conformist.
Yeah, I
I think
agree.
that's really cool.
I think this movie is ultimately a bit more, I don't want to say helpful, but like
I think
I
so.
can see it like being something that someone might like watch and like it help them process what things they're feeling compared to it. Although I also think it's a little more cynical, but ultimately like a little more helpful. I say cynical
I
because
think
of
it
like the
depends on like
relationship.
it depends on who you engage with the most. Like I engage with Nancy the
Yeah,
most. So like that moment where where they're first getting, I'm laughing because it's so fucking crazy. When they're first getting to know Sarah and like they see the cuts on her wrists from her attempted
yeah.
suicide, and Nancy's just like punk rock. Let's go to the magic shop. And I'm like, Nancy, calm down. What are you
That's what I
doing?
mean. Is like it's some dark shit. It like yeah, I kept thinking like there were parts of this where I'm like this could probably go on Disney Channel or something, and then they'll do something like that. I'm like, oh my god,
This
oh
movie
my,
is rated R.
is it?
Yeah,
Holy
which I
shit,
think is a bit gatekeepy. I think that this should have been
that's
more
that
available to
shocks me.
13-year-olds.
That
Yeah.
shocks me. I would have pegged this as like at least PG-13. That was a thing in the mid-90s. PG-13. Yeah, that started in like the 80s.
It
So
was a thing in the 90s. That
I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I didn't think it was. I thought it was a little extreme at parts, but like not our territory. Or maybe
I
I'm just
think they
thinking
were
with like a
probably wanting a
2020.
PG-13. I think it's kind of
Oh, I
unfair that it
guarantee
was
it.
given an R.
I guarantee they wanted that, given the kind of writing style and tone. Yeah, you can
Mhm.
tell who the target audience is. It's two people on YouTube in 2021, but who are like,
I should mention that Rachel True, in my mind, is a friend of the channel. I love this woman to death. I covered Nowhere like a few years ago, the Gregor Rocky film that she is remarkable in. And She actually shared my video on Twitter, and like that to
so she
me is just
basically
incredible.
subscribed to the channel. She,
Yeah, she's basically saying every word I say is true and accurate and honest.
I
Um,
love Rachel True. I think she's incredibly charismatic, like just naturally charismatic in a different way from like
from
Fruza
any of
Balk.
them.
Yeah,
They're
because
all
Fruza Balk,
really unique, actually. Like they all bring their own energy and their own uniqueness. Like you
I
can,
agree.
if you're growing up and you're looking for some sort of like not necessarily a thing to model your life after, but to be like see yourself within a character, you have four really unique and different choices here.
I agree.
Um, and Rachel
Fruza
True is an excellent analog.
Fruza Balk has more of that like not entirely, but kind of that Nicolas Cage energy where she just like full body
Yes,
commits to the role, you know, like fully in there.
sure,
Whereas
sure.
Rachel True is just like and just a charismatic person. Like you know, don't make me say she's pretty. Don't.
Say it. Say she's
I
pretty
said
because
no,
she's
she's pretty
very pretty.
more now than ever. But no,
Um,
no,
for
she
real.
is. She's
You want to know
really
what
she's like
magic is? That's she might be fucking around with some witchcraft. She still looks incredible, like almost 30 years later.
yeah. I saw that Shutter documentary. I thought she was like in her 30s. I'm like, man, she's beautiful. No, I really like Rachel True. I really love Nev Campbell. Nev Campbell's always great. It was weird to me to watch a movie where she's like almost in the background just because she wasn't a thing yet, which
hmm
is wild
She
because
had
this came
just
out the
done
same
like
year as Scream.
she had just done like
She
one season of Party of Five at this point, but they could already see something special and engaging about her presence. And this is a really cool character for her to play. Her scene, okay, like really creeped me out as a kid. I guess maybe I don't like body horror too much. I'm not sure. I
it's a
still
little
have
Cronenbergy. Yeah.
I still had the reaction you're supposed to have when you see it, you know. Like when I was a kid though, and they were doing that like that needle surgery, like
Yeah.
whatever the process on her burnt skin, and the way that she screamed, and like remember being a kid and having to fast forward through that stuff and being like, because it was really harsh to me, and I didn't want to see her go through like that much pain, and then that's some creepy fucking like visceral feeling shit. But so far as Rachel True goes, who doesn't love seeing Marsha Brady, like the racist girl, the racist cute girl, I go fucking bald in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and that was something for the 90s too. I know I read Rachel True had like kind of mixed feelings. I think she said, don't quote me on this. I think she said she had like mixed feelings at the time of filming, but she's more positive about like it all now. Um
mhm.
like the way they handled that whole plot line. I think part of it was that she felt weird about like having her character like implicitly the struggle she has to deal with is racism, and I think she said like at the time she was like, why can't it be something else? But now she's like looking back on it, she's more positive about it, and she's happy about it, and she's happy about the movie. I think that's kind of the vibe she had about it, and I
Yeah,
do think it's handled well. I mean, it's really good.
yeah.
It's dark. I Although her version of it is even darker. Rachel True had like, they were like, what would you have done differently? And she's like, I think she said, I would have had the girl bullying her become black and get bullied by
Okay.
racists. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
what
Right.
Rachel True said she wanted, and it would have
That
been
would
a
have
hell
been
of a
worse.
movie. I
Put Marsha Brady in blackface. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, but no, I think it's all handled well, especially at least for the 90s, and especially given that context, it's definitely unique.
I think
It
it's
didn't
great.
happen a lot at the time. I mean,
I
even
think
in general, the whole premise didn't happen a lot. Like you already said it, women-centered horror films. I mean, like they're all kind of implicitly women-centered, but just in a different
implicitly, but
way.
this is
Usually that means you have to overcome trying to get stabbed, whereas this,
but
it's like,
these movies are also invaluable to like young boys growing up as well. Because when I would watch the movie as a kid, like you're not gonna identify with like Skeet. You're not gonna
no,
identify with this brain dead fucking loser guy. You're
no,
gonna
I
identify
agree.
with one of the four main girls. You're gonna see yourself within one of these four main girls' personalities when you're a kid. And it helps you like it helps with empathy. It helps with everything. This is an invaluable movie to me, honestly.
No, I
Um,
agree. I know. I think I mentioned it last week. I don't know how you're airing these. Last week about Twilight, which obviously I didn't watch the crap, but I watched or read Twilight as a kid. I was like, it was something to engage with femininity
mhm,
as like a kid
yeah,
in a way that was different, especially because it was being channeled through horror, which I think is like a really good, especially because horror is kind of inherently,
hmm
dissociating in some way. We talk about body horror and stuff like that, or psychological horror. It's kind of dissociating inherently. So I think it's a good platform for engaging with that kind of thing. I think it works really, really well.
Nancy was a really helpful character to me growing up. Of like, because I was really into like alternative lifestyles and stuff, and being as punk as you can be. And she was cool as like you can go too far, but you're
Mhm.
not alone. It's good stuff. Rachel True at least gets to be the centerpiece of one of the defining teen moments of the of '90s cinema, with light as a feather, stiff as a board, and like levitating Rachel True
It's
off
a
of the
really
camera.
good. It's really,
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, that's teenage girl archetypal right there. That's really cool to see.
She
Let's
also has
see,
my favorite line in the movie.
what
Uh,
is it?
it's when they all get their kind of wishes come true,
Yes.
except for Nancy. Nancy's doesn't yet, and I think it's Sarah says like, "What's her problem?" She's like, "I don't know. I think she doesn't want to be white trash anymore." But I'm like, "You're
Yeah,
white,
but
honey.
you're
Just
like,
deal with it." It's such a funny line.
that's the line. I'm like, there's no way that was written. Like, there's no way it
It
was
might have.
written as that. Like, that's wild. My
No,
God.
it's a very
Yeah,
funny
I
line.
always forget that Nancy maybe kills her abusive stepdad and then inherits all that money. That's
Yeah, it's
awesome.
one of those plot things where it's 100% their fault, but they can kind of argue like, well, not really our fault.
Well, it
Like,
really informs the tonality that like the men in this script are like actually they're all like pretty abusive. If we take what Skeet does when he's brainwashed to be an action of a hyper sexualized and obsessive teenager. Uh,
yeah, and it's implied that Nancy's father kind of treats her the same, or I don't know if
mhm,
it's her stepdad or uh, it's definitely not her like actual father, but her biological father. It's her stepdad. But yeah, it's implied like he
yeah,
mistreats her in the same way. So
yeah.
yeah, I
Sarah's
agree.
dad's okay. Sarah's dad's okay. He's just like not like there. Um,
Present.
and the homeless guy was a fucking psych, like nut job.
I thought there was going to be like a payoff for that where you realize he was warning her about something and then that just never happens. It's really, it was
Well,
like, no, he's actually just some random guy with a snake following her around.
Nancy's a snake. By the way, there were 2,700 fucking snakes for that. That's
Nice.
that's an obscene amount of snakes to keep track of and to force Robin Tunney to walk around.
Yeah.
Um, it reminded me of like of dreams I've been having lately of just snakes everywhere. Which apparently, if you like look it up, it means a betrayal is coming. Got my eye on you.
Oh no, I'm gonna start my new channel and I'm gonna take all your followers away. Justin
Yeah.
and I are gonna start a channel.
Oh my god.
Your
But
mainstream boyfriends. Here.
oof, I won't have it. I won't have it. But
Uh, back on what you were.
Nancy,
Oh, go
Nancy's
ahead.
supposed to be like a snake or whatever, right? I mean, that's her animal for sure. And if snakes do represent betrayals in a Jungian or Freudian sense, well, actually Jungian sense. I think Freud says that they're all a bunch of dicks. Uh,
Yeah, and
Jung
then
was,
Young was like, "Why do you have to say everything is a bunch of dicks? Why does it have to?" Be? And then even
oh,
50 years later, like Guattari was like, "But why does it always have to be a fucking dick? Or why does it have to
uh,
be your dad?" But yeah, no, she's kind of an antagonistic presence from the start. That's why I was like kind of shocked that in the end they all kind of just hate each other and don't actually like relate to each other in any way. But she was always the one where you caught that right away.
yeah,
I
but
think
it
it's
was
more of
like
a shock with Rachel and Nev Campbell, like they're able to like feign sympathy easier, whereas like Firuza Balk just like bullshit or doesn't give a shit the whole time and is very honest about that to some
I
extent.
think Nancy's like a really feeling kind of person. I mean, she's a hyper jealous individual though.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah, she
coming
just
from
wants to be
like
loved and
yeah, and
yeah.
it's definitely coming from that place of always feeling inferior by class. Like she's easily the poorest out of all of them, and this looks like a
Yeah.
pretty affluent school. I think there's like a lot to her performance that like comes across. Like she could do a simple gesture, and it does so much storytelling, so much pathos that like is otherwise unseen or unfelt.
Hmm.
Um, I don't like to moralize or whatever like villains in particular, but this girl was a fucking just a troubled girl, like, and but I
Yeah,
think
that's
it's really
why.
well set up. I think it's really well set up of like she is mildly antagonistic at first, but like if you listen to the language that like Sarah uses, it's like I have to stop them or they're getting out of control, and then it immediately becomes she's after me, she's gonna get me, and it immediately centers all around Nancy as the antagonist.
Yeah, she she's definitely the most sympathetic. That's why I also take issue with the ending, sort of, is that she's like really horribly punished for it, like
Yeah. At least she
really
didn't
badly
die.
punished. She
Uh,
didn't die, but I might argue it's worse. Like she's submitted to like you know
well, I haven't
The
seen.
American like medical circuit, like that's horrifying.
I haven't seen the Craft Legacy that came out like maybe 2 years ago.
I heard it's like a soft reboot, but also technically a sequel, like it's canonical.
Well, I got curious about my homegirl Faruza Balk and saw that she has a cameo in it, and I'm wondering if it's going to be a Rebecca Gayheart thing. I would love to see it.
Or if she's just withering away in prison or in a mental hospital still, which is like the most
Maybe.
terrible fate. She no, she gets a raw deal. Just because you feel bad for her, you feel bad for her almost more than a main character of
Oh,
the
I do.
movie.
Oh, I
Yeah,
do. Well, I mean, that's that stereotypical, or not. What's a typical way that villains are really good is that they do possess sympathy to a certain extent. I can understand why a girl from a trailer park wants to be a god. I can understand
yeah.
that.
Uh,
That's a really sensible thing to me. It's not irrational at all. I could,
I
it's irrational to act rational given the circumstances of Nancy's life.
Yeah, yeah. I'm less positive about the shift for Nev Campbell and Rachel True. It just felt weird to me because I was under the
Um,
impression that they were to some extent possessed or like under Nancy's like
yeah,
thing, like that she was manipulating their feelings in some way, or like the magic was manipulating their feelings, because they become really psychopathic really fast. Like they try to kill one of their friends, but then the ending happens. It's like no, they're actually just like that. They're
yeah.
actually like that's just them, and I was like, oh, which I guess isn't bad. I can always appreciate a movie being cynical. I can
It's got
respect the
that
choice.
it's got
It's
that
just like
power corrupts thing, and those two are definitely drawn towards power from the very beginning. Nev Campbell being fixated on Sarah's ability to like make a pencil stand up. Like they're both very attracted to power and who's the most
yeah,
powerful. And I think that like both Nancy and Sarah are defined as well by the way that they express their power. One does it selfishly and one does it selflessly.
yeah,
Um,
and obviously
Nev
it's all
Campbell,
tied into
though,
a
it is a bit weird. It feels like a She's All That Rachel Lee Cook makeover of like, guys, I get that you can see her back now, but she was always hot, you guys. Like she fundamentally looks the same. Brecken Meyer, she looks the same. But
yeah.
apparently, when she got hotter, that's when her personality really shifted to being a total Nancy Droog. Like,
Yeah,
um, she, she, she got hotter on the outside and ugly on the inside. Rachel True, we don't really get to see Rochelle's.
it's really abrupt because
Yeah,
you
we don't
actually
really
see
get
her
this.
feel bad about it. You see her like look at
I
the girl
know.
she like punished, and she's like she looks like she feels really bad. You get a great shot out of it though, where
No,
she's standing
yeah.
next to a mirror and she looks, and the mirror's like offset by like a half a second.
Well,
It's
that's
really
that's
good.
where I think that the craft, like, that's where I think it justifies what we're talking about because it's showing Bonnie that she's an even uglier person now, and
Yeah,
and I think that Rochelle is internalizing the guilt that she feels about doing this to Lizzie, and or otherwise she wouldn't be seeing that. Like what you put out into the world comes back to you three times or whatever.
I guess I just
Um,
kind of wish those two got a bit more time in the second half because I feel like in the end they kind of become lackeys almost for
They are lackeys, but I think they
Nancy.
always were lackeys. I think it was always
Yeah,
Nancy versus Sarah. And I like that they do get dispatched rather quickly in the final scene, so you can have a really just a square off, a face off between light and dark, like the best personification of dark I've seen in a while. I like that Nancy really gets to take center stage there, and
I also really like that finale, by the way.
what?
It the I really like the finale. It actually reminds me a
Yeah.
lot of again, it's they preemptively before this movie came out, they do like the ginger snaps thing of like you have a house and you kind of like become familiar with the layout of the house and then they turn into like a fucking monster house.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really cool. I always like that. I like that a lot. I also like it because it's constantly unclear how much of it is actually threatening to her because some of it is imaginary and some of it is very real. Like the insects and such are fake, but then she like actually cuts her wrists and
That's the thing, right? Oh my God.
yeah,
Like, ah, all of that cruelty from Nancy, really. When she's hiding in the bathroom, um, and Nancy comes in and like yanks open the curtain and is just like,
yeah.
ah, surprise! You should kill yourself. You should really do it. Bye. And then she like runs away.
It's like that
And
wouldn't
then like
happen.
they're in the living room going like, "You're gonna kill yourself tonight, man, Sarah, because we don't like you. You're gonna do it." And then yeah, like you said, Nancy like maybe cuts her like wrists open.
It's really morbid. It's almost it's like the most disturbing thing about the movie. I think it's like one of those things where they didn't quite realize how disturbing it actually was.
But
Or
that's to me what also elevates or levitates this film into a realm where we can talk about it like this, because
yeah,
if it didn't have the cruelty and it was just Nancy being misled and troubled, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But since she's also cruel and sadistic about it, we're having this discussion. because she takes it
Yeah.
too far.
I mean, I guess Heather's existed at this point, but I feel like people weren't really like
But that's a totally
you've
different
like no, I
tone.
mean like in terms of like just this thing pent up in people. Like you've talked about Scream in connection to like
Mhm.
Columbine and shit like that. Like now people kind of have like a sense for what these feelings are, but at
Yeah,
the time it was all kind of just an abstract thing. So I think when they
I'm
talk
glad they.
about like the craft in the craft, when they talk about something like say a suicide attempt, they don't like they might, I don't think like the people writing that may have like realized how like heavy it was. They realized it was heavy, but like, and I think it's a more
Yeah,
interesting film for that. I think it's a more interesting film for that. I'm not knocking
me
it.
too.
I'm just saying like there's nothing else it could have done at that point in time. They didn't know, but like
Well, it's not
now
only
you
that they
want.
didn't know, people just didn't think it was a heavy issue. Like I don't think it was insincerely handling it. That was the '90s ethos of, oh well, whatever, never mind. Like who cares?
We
I'd
can
like
make
to
a
even point
joke
that
about
out about
students shooting
Scream. Like
teachers.
if this came out, like I think it was made before Scream was, like, because nobody wanted Skeet on the movie because nobody knew who he was, but by the end of the year, everybody did. It makes me feel
I'm
like
gonna
this was
guess they were
still on its
probably
own.
filmed semi simultaneously, like around a similar time frame. So
Which means that the craft were on the Williamson vein that you were just hinting at, of like of really trying to engage with like the new '90s outsider who's either media obsessed or they're goth or like they're alternative, but they're gonna kill their classmates. Uh,
yeah, because Nine Inch Nails was a thing by this point. So
Yep. And a film that does fetishize like things like suicide. I mean, the '90s were a fetishistic period, because part of deconstructionism is you have to eventually fetishize the object to get every ounce of meaning removed from it. It makes
yeah, it's the
sense.
Buffy thing because like by the end of the show, Buffy's been like tortured beyond belief by her by the
Yep.
writer of the show, Joss Whedon, like tortured her, killed her, and then said, you know, I'm not fucking done yet. I'm gonna torture you yet more. So
And let me just remind everyone that I have a face tattoo and not a Buffy one. I'm into
yeah,
this archetype. I'm into this Nietzschean dream girl, fucked up bad girl archetype. I like it.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
good. It's a good one. It's necessary. Um, yeah, Nancy is quite a bit like Faith actually.
a little
Um,
bit, yeah. She does do the like I killed someone, and she's like, I don't care.
and they both have fucked up daggers. Like,
Yeah,
so, and there are queer undertone. Buffy is actually more queer in this respect between
by
Buffy and
far.
Faith.
Yeah, yeah,
But
definitely.
it's kind of there. Like what you're saying. I wish it did go heavier, but you can definitely read into it if you want. Like it's available. It's just not
I
too
think it's mostly
substantial.
just I think it's mostly just undermined by the second half, like where they become more antagonistic, so they kind of have to
Yeah.
do away with that a bit. Yeah, I agree though. I wish there was a bit more of that. Because I always appreciate like ambiguously gay
Hmm.
screenwriting. It's always a fun time. But and you get that most in this movie. I mean, they literally kiss each other in one scene, and you get it more out of like scenes of them like going to the magic shop and shopping.
There are like okay, so there is nihilism here. For all of its like paganism, for all of its postmodern feminist critiques within the craft, which are there. There's a lot of nihilism too, because if we follow the problematic philosophy that seems sentimental at first, because it seems to be a treatise against wish fulfillment, be it in real life or cinematically, like against wish fulfillment.
Hmm.
Um, Nancy becomes even more sympathetic because the film is positing that she's better off in that situation. She's better off in a trailer with an abusive stepfather and a
Yeah,
seemingly drug-addled parent than when she actually got what she wanted. And it even says like I feel like it's saying that Nev Campbell's better off partially like burned, and then Rachel True just has to bear it.
this
Be
is
careful what you wish for. I That's where it gets problem. Like, why not wish for to be lifted from a fucking trailer park movie? Like, why not? That's why I'm
this
with
is
Nancy
I
ultimately.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, partly because reading a book about I'm reading Adorno, a book about the issues of like enlightenment and like rational thinking and how it's full of shit, and how it's full of contradictions because like people think they're more rational, but then it's just, parents telling kids, yeah, your life is going to suck and you're going to be a cog in the machine, but there's nobility
Yep.
in embracing that. It's why like last week when I was talking about Twilight, I'm like, I love how like the thesis of Twilight is why the fuck wouldn't you want to be immortal, and how Edward's failure is that he's like, no, you shouldn't, it's wrong, and then she's like, no, it's awesome, why wouldn't I? Like, I respect that shit because yeah, no, I always take issue with like this kind of noble rejection of kind of like not utopian but like kind of better things, this nobility and suffering that's actually completely avoidable and unnecessary and doesn't make them
Mm,
better. Like, Nancy's not better for her suffering. She shouldn't have
no,
suffered in the first place. And so
no.
it's kind of a postmodern thing, but also kind of a modern thing in its own way, that kind of moralizing. But I don't know.
But that's
It's
why,
unfortunate.
like, I don't consider it a flaw. Like, these are like my favorite movies on the planet, like this era. Like, I love Williamson, but the reason why their postmodern arguments are always stronger than that noble sentimentality that you're talking about. That's why when I walk away from Scream 2, I'm like, yeah, yeah, I will blame the movies, as opposed to the
Yeah,
clearly opposite argument that the film is making. With The Craft, I'm walking away going, Nancy was right, as
yeah,
opposed to the clearly sentimental message this film was supporting. I think because the '90s, like, I think that certain creatives feel like they have a social responsibility to provide some noble, some seemingly noble but facile justification of a moralistic worldview. When at the end of the day, the nihilistic one is just you undeniable. Uh,
yeah.
that
It's the Hollywood thing. Like they have to because it's a studio.
like I would want any trailer park girl to feel like a god for one day than to live their entire existence in abject poverty and abuse. Like,
Yeah.
call me crazy or postmodern, but that's the way it should be.
Hmm.
Uh, whether or not that involves like killing your friend, no, no, it doesn't. But but
I mean, it can.
you get what I'm like analytically. What
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, I
yeah,
agree. I
is
think it took a while for movies to get there, and even then, they still haven't. I feel like these days we're kind of like more nihilistic. Even not to keep harping on, I just think it's like a really, really good comparison point to this movie because they're so similar. But like Ginger Snaps has like, not to spoil it, but has like a miserable ending, like a horribly
yeah,
miserable ending that doesn't really moralize. It's just like, no, this shit sucked, and it sucked, and it was
yeah.
unnecessary, and no one's happier for it, and that's kind of the ending. Um,
This one gets to
and
moralize and it tries to have its cake and eat it too by Sarah keeping her power while Rochelle and
yeah,
Bonnie are like begging for it, like two little droogies begging for a glimpse of power again. And
I might hate Sarah. I might, uh,
Sarah's really not the
or
best,
not
but
hate. I
nothing
mean,
against
I feel,
Robin Tunney. She's a '90s icon, Empire Records for life. Like, she's awesome in this movie. It's just the worst character out of the four, but it's still a very valid one to have.
yeah.
You need to have Nancy's opposite. You need it.
And I should say also, I feel bad saying that, like, given like the character's like backstory, it's actually like as probably like close to as sad as like Nancy's. It's pretty
Hmm.
depressing, but like all that said, I think like where they take the character is not particularly interesting, is what I meant. Um, because
No,
yeah, she's
absolutely.
like, I know better and all that. I'm like, oh fuck you. I Nev deserves to not be scarred. I don't know what to tell you.
And I think that those are like some cracks in the film's philosophy, but it always possesses Nancy. We always have Nancy, and they do that one really well. It does the
Yeah,
nihilistic argument so much better than it does the moralistic one, which I don't think is a flaw against the film, honestly, because most of the there has a huge cult following. Most of the
yeah,
praise and tributes I see of The Craft are like Nancy or Rochelle centric. Like, they are centered
yeah,
around the darker aspects of the movie because I think that this is what this film speaks to. And I'm glad that it does. I'm glad that like people walk away from it going, I don't want to be more conformist. In fact, I want to go more extreme. I want to be Nancy. I don't want to kill someone, but I want to make
yeah.
people feel uncomfortable.
I think it's like what you said about like the villain always being a more interesting character. Like often, I think because I feel like it's probably known to the people writing the movie that like they create a main character because it serves the plot the best and it's the most coherent for your narrative, but like they know who you actually are more interested in and
Yes,
probably relate to most.
yes.
Um,
Um, I just want to harp on like again though. The Nancy Downs could have gone in a million different directions, and Fairuza Balk really went for it. And I like that you said in Nicolas Cage way, but in a way that
yeah,
works. Nicolas Cage when he's actually like doing it right, like because we've seen what happens when he does it wrong, and it ruins everything that he's like everything he tries to do.
speak for yourself, but
No, Fairuza went off the rail, like point of no return, didn't look back, and it worked. And it completely worked. It was phenomenal to see a young actor make these insane decisions, and every single one of them worked.
yeah,
Like every
yeah,
single one. It was wild to see that. The Craft, I think, is a super important film, especially within this tidal wave, which I'll say is from like '95 to 2004 at the very latest and the very earliest of the truly postmodern teen or horror movie. um the Craft is like an essential film there. I wish it was even more informative. I wish we had more films to compare it to within that time, more like female centric films to compare it to.
yeah,
As you've said, like Scream and all those, they are like implicitly like female driven or centered or whatever, but not really, not
yeah.
really.
Scream's a little more than more other slashers. You know, like Nev is probably easier to relate to than like a Jamie Lee Curtis, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's still pretty minor comparatively. I feel like there's some I'm forgetting, but I just don't know. I mean, it's always like a little bit of something, you know, like you know, like when we talk about who the most interesting character in Bride of Chucky is, like that's obvious, but I wouldn't say it's like a particularly feminist film, you know.
No. I mean, she's trying to stay in an abusive relationship in Bride of
Yeah,
Chucky.
exactly.
But
So
the Craft, we didn't really see its progeny until like Ginger Snaps, and if that is like the offspring of the Craft, then great job, the Craft. Like you did it, you fucking did it. Really good job. Are there any other parts of the movie that like stood out to you?
gosh, I feel like we covered a lot of them.
I think so
I
too.
I enjoyed the soundtrack. I couldn't tell if it was like actually a Smith song or a cover of a Smith song.
Right? Oh no, I
Prob-
like the opening credits. With with
Yeah,
uh, with with it was originally just the three girls doing some seance, and then it kicked into some crazy Beatles relax your mind, relax and float downstream. I don't know what song it's. A last Tomorrow Never Knows or something. It's the last song off Revolver, but it's a weird remix or cover version of
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And we're flying through the sky, and I'm like, oh fuck, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And
yeah. I miss openings like that.
oh yeah, same.
The apex of that kind of opening sequence, my favorite is Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows, which has like an orange like flying over the forest while a Rob Zombie song plays. It's the but I think
I will
Final
correct you
Destination had one.
immediately. A Marilyn
Was
Manson song was playing.
is it? No, it was like I thought it was.
It was red disposable teens, red disposable. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh no, I know why. Because they play Dragula later in the movie. That's why I thought that. They play it
Okay,
near the end.
okay, poser.
Sorry,
Okay.
I forgot you were the Book of Shadows and aficionado here.
I hate that movie.
I
I hate
like
it.
it. I think it's fun, but
But I love that Manson song though, so that's like why I remember that opening.
oh, either way, yeah, no, it's a
The
good
Craft
time.
is a wonderful film. Uh, it does have its problems and its issues, but those are necessary problems and issues that it took the wave of postmodernism to get past and move away from, to engage with and then like recognize as issues and like correct.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's really good. Um, Film itself, like magic, can be incredibly beautiful and giving, or it can be cruel. Um, Craft is cool. Any final words?
No, that was a good one. That was a good
Yeah, that was
word.
good. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. I'm your cult boyfriend. This is Jacob, and then we were talking about The Craft. Have a good one.